This is a tutorial on how to record animations using Windows 10 Camera and Windows Movie Maker. So first thing I do, I've opened the application and I am building up the scene which I'm going to animate. I've got my background already, which could be anything, and I'm blue tacking my base of what I'm going to animate to the ground so it doesn't move while I'm animating. Doing this stops everything from shaking and everything does not move freely, it's all controlled. It makes animation look a lot more smoother as well if everything's not shaking around, as you can see as I'm trying to put it down. The background is just standing freely, but I'm not knocking it or touching it in any way, so it's okay. It's resting against something. I didn't worry too much about how the scene looked and the surroundings. Next, I went into the files just to see where, when I create the animation, when I take the photos, these photos are going to be saved. So I was looking into the files. If I wanted to, I could have moved the file location so that if I'm creating another animation, it can distinguish them separately. Or if I'm working on something else, I can easily tell what's what. So I've set all the settings up to how I wanted them to be. Can be a bit fiddly sometimes, so take a look around at your controls. You may also need moderator controls to see where it's going to be saved, especially if you're doing it on a school network. So now I have my settings set up. I just check to see if I have everything else okay, like frame rates. I don't really need to worry about frame rates because it's an animation, so I'm taking photos, it's not a video. Now I do realise the camera I use is really crappy, which is quite bad, so I probably should have got a better one. Right now, off camera, I was going into my documents just to see whereabouts it's going to save and making sure that's all okay. So I started the animation. I took a first couple of test frames just to see how it's going to look. That is that. And then open it up just to see how it's going to look compared to the actual animation itself. For each frame, you take 2 pictures, which can make the length last longer. It's also an effect done in the industry, which is quite handy. It was at this point where I started to move the character, which is Robin from Batman, a few steps at a time. This is just to ensure, like when I compare it later, that it all matches up fine. So if something's a little bit off, if something is a little bit off, I can go back and change it up. Now each shot I then move Robin a tiny little bit, so the arm will move up or his hair will go. Try not to do too much at once, because you could overcrowd the situation. Like if you have multiple people, it's harder to animate. Some people might be moving at different times to others. So now I'm comparing what I've got so far. As you can see, Robin's hand is slowly moving up and his cape moves with it. But that's because his arm was resting on the cape or that I could have knocked the cape for myself. So I have to be careful with that. I should use like a pole, like a metal rod to move Robin's hand, that way I cannot affect the cape like that. I thought I may as well time lapse this bit because there is a lot going on. It's quite repetitive. It could be a long process to animate. Like this one took me about 9 minutes just to sort out, but that was also including setting up the camera, setting up the scene and the scenario, and coming up with a tiny storyline. Once I finished that, I opened Movie Maker and I'm going to import all the images. So I go to the file which I know where the images are saved. I can just select them all, drag and drop them right in, or just press open. Or I can go to the file commander and open up in the file explorer and just drag and drop them in. So now that I have them in there, I was look at the top of the screen. I was thinking about the length of how long the video is going to be. At first, I had it fairly long just to see if that's short enough, which it clearly wasn't. So I kept on shrinking it down just to make sure it gets to the right time. So you can see the animation does look still rather slow, whereas the movement of the character should be a lot faster. so half the time. So now Robin looks more realistic. The only thing I would reconsider is the lighting. I only have one lamp set up, and you can see the reflection of it on the background. And also you can see the background change flutter to a quick pink, and that's because part of my wall is pink, so I need to cover that up somehow. So that is how I animate. Once done, you just need to export it, and you are done. That is it. You can then add multiple animations into one lot of Windows Movie Maker and make full animation. In the next tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make a Lego character walk. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like.